Are you tired of losing and being flamed in your ranked games? Then pay attention to the 5 following champions you should avoid playing in patch 2.4c. It's not always that those champions are inherently bad, no, they're just viewed as such. So let's get going. On the first slot we have Ashe. So what does this champion do? In lane it's basically some kind of a bully, at least sometimes. If the enemy is competent enough to hide behind minions, we are borderline useless. However, the moment we hit level 2, we can skill our third ability and scout the enemy jungle. Keep in mind, this information is only valuable for people that actually pay attention to the map. So in ranked games, especially in the solo queue, even in Challenger, not gonna happen too many times. Another thing this champion is actually quite good at is facilitating fights. It has the ability to engage with this arrow, and since Wild Rift is a bit different in League of Legends PC, Ashe can even angle the arrow differently and redirect the arrow while flying. So what is the ideal goal of the champion? In theory, it's to gather information about the enemy team and engaging fights. However, the typical goal of an AD carry is dealing damage. But now we get to the point where things start to get a little bit iffy. Ashe is one of those champions that just doesn't deal enough damage. Compared to the other carries that are meta, she just doesn't have enough, and in combination to not having enough damage, she is also quite the sitting duck. Everything that gets on top of her will kill her. There's nothing she can do to protect herself, apart from throwing her ultimate ability. And after that's out, you're kind of useless. But now it's time for the funny part. Unironically, the most useful I've seen Ashe be is in the support role. We go for a lot of cooldown reduction and try to fire as many arrows as possible around the map, because we are just a facilitator, we just want to make things happen. And with our second ability, we can peel off our enemies. By doing so, we go away from the carry role and let other, better AD carry champions deal the damage we lack. However, now the next problem comes. Our teammates don't like seeing Ashe support. So it's not unusual that you'll get flamed and blamed for anything that happens. So even if you were to go 10-0 in lane and you happen to lose the game, your teammates will still create a narrative in which you are to be blamed, because that's what they always do. So if you're planning on bringing out the Ashe in a game, I'd recommend doing it in a pre-made scenario. In that you can roughly test the champion without dealing with the mental problems of the solo queue. So with that, we have already one champion out of the way that people don't really like to see. So let me ask you directly, for our question of the day of course, what champion would you like to see the least on your team? Leave your answer in the comments below. Next up comes Soraka. Inherently speaking, Soraka is an OP champion. She was borderline broken on the PC version and is still kinda viable in here. However, there's one big problem, but let's talk about what she does first. So what does Soraka do? In lane, she's a bully. She likes to bully the enemy and heal you up at the same time. On top of that, if the Soraka player is good enough, she can read the enemy movements perfectly and place her silence in a way that the enemy cannot respond anymore. With that, you can easily pick up a few kills. But now let's talk about the problems. Many people don't realize that Soraka will indefinitely heal you as long as she has the life to do so. The more levels she gains, the better it becomes because the cooldown gets lower. However, in fights, people tend to run away the moment they feel like they're low on HP. But with Soraka, being low on HP is quite a different story, and trading in lane changes a lot. So let's create an imaginary scenario. You go and trade with the enemy team in a 2v2 situation. You have healing with the Soraka, but the enemy team only has shielding. So if you extend the trade and end the trade by losing 70% and the enemy loses 60%, it's better for you. The question is why though? Well, Soraka is going to heal you up over time and she'll get you to 100% again, whereas the enemy is stuck with this natural regeneration, which then means by the second time you try to trade in the same manner, it's going to be a bit different. Especially later on, when Soraka has access to her ultimate ability, things change heavily. She has so much healing that she can keep you alive indefinitely. But for that to be valuable, you have to realize that, and also the Soraka has to realize this. But from my own personal experience, I can tell you that people like to run away the moment they get dealt a little bit of damage. And when they keep on running away when they have a Soraka, that's kind of a problem. Because that is not what the champion wants to do. The champion enables your teammates to continuously fight until you run out of HP. Because as long as you have these HP, you'll keep them alive as good as you can. So in conclusion, the saddest part about this champion and why you should avoid picking it is because people are not good enough playing with this champion on the team. And now we move on from a heal bot to a champion that has been gutted quite a bit and now is not the easiest to play. Auriel Soul. So this champion has been nerfed so many times because it was so obnoxious to deal with. He had priority in any middle lane matchup and could do whatever he wants. But this has changed. His best item of past times, Leandra's Torment, has been gutted, his second ability's damage has been gutted, and he's just a sad dragon right now. So what does the champion do right now? This champion likes to get priority in the middle lane. Due to the changes, it's not the easiest anymore. And it takes a bit of skill to not get yourself killed because of your positioning. So by taking the priority in middle lane, you want to then pressure the map. If you don't pressure the map as an Aurelian Soul, well, you've already failed your purpose. But the most important thing is that you don't have to go to other lanes from your lane directly. Even after a reset, you can just fly straight to the lane where you want to go and build up a big star that nearly guarantees a kill in any scenario. But one of the issues with this champion is that if you fail in such situations, you fall behind, and since your champion has a big damage problem, unless you get to items of course, you will become irrelevant. So let's talk about items here. So previously, Aurelian Soul loved Leandris. That's a thing of the past now. If you want to play him, I'd recommend a very specific build. It's the Rod of Ages, into Rabadon's Death Cap, and into whatever you need in this situation, be it a Void Stuff, be it an Infinity Orb, or be it a Morellonomicon. But you want damage, you want as much damage as possible, and you want to pretend that you're a burst mage. Because then if you play your cards right and build the right items, you deal true damage to up to 55 magic resistance. Which is quite a lot because most of the carry champions in this game won't get more magic resist unless they itemize into it. And since we all know about the itemization issues in solo queue, it might be an easy dub just going for the full pen build. However, reaching that point isn't easy. So unless you want to really one-trick the champion and spend a lot of time playing this champion and mastering it, stay away from it. You'll thank me for that, because if you keep on playing him just casually, you might drop a few LP. Next up on this list comes Tryndamere. Tryndamere has been played in the jungle role, in the Baron lane and in the middle lane. But in each scenario, he just underperformed. In theory though, this champion can be very strong, but getting to that point, yet again similar to the Aurelian Soul, isn't one of the easiest feats to achieve. What comes in combination to that is also the mental damage you inflict upon your team by picking it. It's one of the few champions that will drive your teammates insane for whatever unholy reason, and they'll never recover from it. Maybe in the future over the past next few seasons this will change, but it is awful. So what does the champion do? The champion scales. It scales brutally, and once it has scaled, it's gonna run you down, because it has one ability that none other has. It's becoming unkillable for 5 seconds. And if you think about that, on a champion that can basically crit on every auto attack when he has the items he needs, he will demolish you. However, there are a few things this champion lacks in this game, and primarily its attack speed. In League of Legends, we have a specific keystone called Lethal Tempo. Once we hit an enemy, we get an insane burst of attack speed afterwards. And in this game, we simply don't have that. There's also different items, so the champion is significantly weaker in this game mode than compared to League PC, so even if Tryndamere one-tricks want to make him work, they have a harder time doing so. Which doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. Nonetheless, people have to realize that the champion isn't only just right-clicking into your face. He isn't just smacking you. You have to think about what you can do and how much you can do. So in that sense, it's not the easiest of champions, even if it sounds like a bit weird to hear. Because unless you know all the rules of the champion and the specific matchups and what you have to do in the game, you'll be just nothing. And now let's move on to our very last champion, Leona. She's a very durable and sturdy champion that has trouble dying actually. But what makes this champion technically strong? For one point, it's her ability to just dive you straight away. The moment she's level 3 and there are minions around, you'll be dove. She as a support will just make sure of that. There's nothing you can do about it. But what does she do in the very early levels? Level 1, she is basically just a minion like Alistar. Level 2 she can start to play, and level 3 she reaches her full functionality. Having all her free spells allows her to be an obnoxious enemy in lane. Once she tags you with her third ability, you're in for a very bad time. This is only eclipsed by her level 5 spike, which means she now has a tool to engage you from very far away and keep you CC locked for quite a long time. And with that, we're also at the ideal goals of the champion. This champion wants to fight, it wants to go in and it wants to kill. But what happens if you're not playing with a pre-med and you want to play like this? Can you trust him? Is it really a smart choice picking a Leona here? Can you really rely on them doing what you want them to do? because once you go in, the chances of you getting out are rather slim. But if you want to pick up the champion nonetheless, you have to practice her third ability's range. It's very key to understand what it does and how you can use it. Also, being familiar with what is around you and good camera management will allow you to utilize your ultimate 10 times better in all situations. But if you want the easy version of Leona, just pick Alistar. He's basically very similar to what she does, but is 10 times easier to execute. And with that, we conclude today's video. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you tomorrow.